Initial reactions to Resurrection Episode 5 entitled Insomnia, along with comments and questions live from the fans coming up next.
Welcome to Resurrection Revealed.
This is Resurrection Revealed. It's the unofficial podcast and blog by fans and for fans with theories and talk all about ABC's Resurrection. Can you believe it? It's episode 11. It's recorded live April 6, 2014. And me, I'm Wayne Henderson. And with less sleep, we could even record this podcast at 3 in the morning.
And I'm Troy Heinrichs, making sure I bring my own bottled water to work as we discuss all of the craziness that happened this evening on Resurrection. Show notes for this episode can be found at resurrectionrevealed.com/11. That's 11. Turn up the dial. It's awesome, and it's on tonight.
It was totally amazing. And even though the opening sequence turned out to be a dream sequence, I still thought it was fantastic. We've got more Army games going on, kind of like the G.I. Joe scenes from back episode 1 or 2. We've got Godzilla going in for the win, but he's thwarted, of course, by a giant cicada.
And I thought that was really the interesting point of this entire sequence, right? Because at first I was like, okay, this can't be really happening. We've seen this in the promos. We saw it in the sneak previews. The FBI is coming in to take him away. And the first thing that was like, wait. You know, Lucille's sitting right by the piano, so the door is going to hit her in the back of the head if the door opens up as they bust in. You know, and Henry's sitting right there. So it's like, okay, why haven't these people seen these guys come in the door? And why is it that, you know, Omar's the one yelling out, right? Bellamy's yelling out, hey, Jacob, come back. So I knew this was going to be some kind of like, you know, gaffe the entire time we saw the promos. But the cicada, I thought that was a really nice touch because if anybody knows about cicadas, you know, they go into the ground and they come on back.
I was thinking it might have been a veiled shout out to Godzilla versus Mothra. Remember the old classic black and white Godzilla movies?
That was also the other thing I was thinking about, but
that was crazy. But we find out that 3:10 a.m. Jacob is wide awake as usual. That poor kid, and he wants the windows checked again. He's being worried about being taken away, much like in that dream sequence. Which, with all the SWAT team appearing, coming through the doors and everything, didn't it also bring back a little bit of a memory of Christmas Vacation near the end?
Absolutely. You know, I think the biggest thing here is that we still have the vibe happening, the channeling that's going on, because he's worried about being taken away, just as, you know, Bellamy's having this, you know, dream sequence of events himself. And the thing that I want to keep an eye on is go back and see if we can see clocks as they wake up in the middle of the night to see if the numbers on the clocks have any meaning to them. I mean, you called out 3:10 a.m. this morning, so we'll have to keep track and see if these clocks mean anything as they go along.
And how about Whistling Caleb? He can't sleep either, and he asks a pivotal question that I think may tie in when we find out what's really going on someday. He says to Bellamy, there is no life or death. Huh?
Yeah, I was like, what? That just is? That just doesn't seem quite right, right?
Yeah, and did you notice the spathiphyllum in the police station?
I did.
More greenery. Love the green, love the plants, love the water. The whole thing was just crazy, especially since we now have to really pay attention to be on the lookout for what might be a dream sequence and what isn't a dream sequence. But I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed in Pastor Tom, even though we interviewed Mark Hildreth just the other day for Resurrection Revealed. You can find it at resurrectionrevealed.com/Mark if you didn't hear our interview with the actor who plays Tom Hale. But he tells his wife, I think her name's Janine, that Rachael went to Tennessee or somewhere to be with family. However, she's just in a local motel. This is not good. I am not happy at all. That's not cool, Pastor Tom.
No, rule number 1, pastor or not, you never lie to your spouse. That only ends up badly.
Especially when it involves a woman who's supposed to be in Tennessee, but she's just in a local motel. I do not see good things coming out of this at all.
Especially after she, you know, wakes up in the middle of the night and actually apologizes for being one of those kind of women, you know, the ones that are jealous and all. So, you know, to actually put herself out there and ask for forgiveness and then to find out she's being lied to, she's going to flip her lid.
Oh, my goodness. Pastor Tom. How about Sheriff Fred there? He's threatening Caleb in the prison, kind of old school style, like, where's the money? They're coming for you. You can help us out before the feds get here and things turn, really bad. Did you like how he did that?
Absolutely, because you know what they say, Wayne?
No, Troy. What do they say?
Karma is an anal probe. Wow. Where did that come from? Do you think that maybe the sheriff was on one of his benders at that time when he came up with that line?
I'd like to move along by posing you the question, did you spot the watering can amidst all the greenery in the Langston garden?
I did. And I thought that was really great too, because, trying to keep this house alive, if you will, second mortgage, doing all the repairs, trying to keep the greenery going, but the only thing I could think of was that Elaine herself actually really needed to take out a third mortgage because she's going to need to do a lot of work after these guys tore the place up.
Yeah, they were not very nice, but she has one heck of a garden. There's all sorts of green plants growing. And of course, focusing on the water can again with the water, just so we'll know about it. And, Kurtwood Smith, props to him and all the fine actors on this show. But Kurtwood Smith, when he's going through that memory book of Jacob with his birth, his footprints, and young photos, was that just top notch or what?
I think what got me more was the fact that it was actually wrapped up in what was apparently probably Jacob's baby blanket. So he had it extra protected, which just shows how much love and passion he put into that kind of keepsake. It reminded me of the photo album in Up, from that movie. And I was like, oh, as soon as he pulled that out, I was getting the Kleenex ready. I was like, this is going to be a little too moving here. And sure enough, the waterworks came just as we cut to commercial.
And what about the foreshadowing when Mr. and Mrs. Langston were talking about, I think it was another young girl named Katie who may have died as well, and they felt distraught about not visiting the parents after it happened. Is that what you were picking up on? Is this someone else we're going to see returned?
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, okay, so maybe they're foreshadowing this girl next door that's going to, or down the street or down the block, whatever it was, that she might be coming back. But, I think that was, a really good point here that the writers and the producers were trying to get across, which is that whole, what do we do with our lives while we have them, right? You could take it from one side of the coin where, if you think about back to the jail scene when Caleb is talking, it's like we go through life afraid of death. It holds us back. And I think that's exactly what the Langstons were feeling when they were talking about these neighbors, was that they were afraid and they didn't know how to address the situation after just losing Jacob themselves. So how can they console somebody when they don't really know themselves how to be consoled because of what they're dealing with?
They're getting deep on us there, Troy. That's well put. It is something that we definitely should all be thinking about. I want to know how, and listeners, of course, we want to hear your thoughts and theories. Be sure to call them in for our main show. The number is 904-469-7469. Troy, what's that number again?
It's 904-469-7469. Or, of course, you can just visit the website, resurrectionrevealed.com/feedback. Or if you got one of those cool things called smartphones, they're smart for a reason. You can just record a voice memo and email it on in again to feedback@resurrectionrevealed.com.
That does sound rather smart. I want to know, how were you feeling earlier in the episode when Elaine Richards is blaming Bellamy for her losing her job at the bank and all the other stuff going on with her? What?
Well, I thought the conversation between her and Maggie was actually a lot more telling, right? Because here she's been blaming Maggie for kind of like putting her down and making her feel less of herself the entire time. And really what she's doing there is kind of, projecting the exact way Caleb made her feel, because we see later in the episode, Caleb having that conversation with Elaine, and Elaine's like, it's because of you that I don't trust anybody. It's because of you, Dad, that I don't let anybody in. Why I haven't found a male suitor, to actually spend time with me, not so much because of the fact that I have to take care of the house and Ray. So here she's projecting her feelings about how she feels about Caleb's parenting onto Maggie. And Maggie comes right back, and great job by Devin this evening, because she's just like, look, I was playing beer pong, man. And you're, got a job and taking care of your brother and, taking care of the house, and you're an awesome woman. And I'm just, just a frat sorority kind of girl.
Well, On the plus side, with Elaine losing her job at the bank, at least we don't have to worry about Caleb going in and playing around on her bank computer at the office anymore.
All that does is just bring in viruses.
It is so dangerous. And that, you know, there's all sorts of judgment that we can question on this episode. Of course, I question my own judgment a lot, but the characters on this show, I'm questioning Pastor Tom's judgment in bringing Rachael, who is supposed to be far, far out of town visiting family. He brings her to Dr. Maggie Langston's office, and I'm thinking, word about this is going to go out as well. And when, you know, Mrs. Hale puts two and two together, again, it's just getting worse by the minute, isn't it? Because then the big bombshell, one of the big bombshells of the evening, tell us about it, Troy, because I was like, seriously? Wow.
Well, I was a little miffed because I did happen to catch one of these, you know, skipping through the commercials, watching Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, Nashville. You can say I'm kind of an ABC snob, if you will, because I kind of stick my Channel 7 here in Chicago and just stay with ABC most of the time. And I was just angry when I just skipping through and I just happened to catch the tail end and it was like, oh, you're pregnant. And I was like, no, why did you tease that? Because that's like so huge when you think about this show, because I mean, she said it right, you know, Rachael said it right in the episode, and we're going to get a chance actually this week. We're going to be talking to Kathleen Monroe, who plays Rachael on the full episode later this week, and we're going to talk about this specifically because she says, well, it just can't be. I must have been pregnant before I died. And so now we're getting this kind of perplexing thing of, okay, well, if she gets a second chance at life because she committed suicide, but now technically she committed murder at the same time because apparently the baby seems to be fine. Otherwise, Maggie would have said, you were pregnant, but you lost the baby. You know, so at this point, it seems like the baby's still viable. You know, that's just mind-blowing when you think about, you know, anybody could get a second chance at life, which goes right back into the spiritual conversation of the fact that anybody could be saved by Jesus dying on the cross and coming back to life. And that just rattled my brain tonight. That was huge.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to bring that up. And listeners, if you have questions for her as well, again, 904-469-7469, because I'm curious to find out, and we're bound to know within a couple episodes, you know, for example, if Rachael and her baby both died, you know, when she drove the car off the bridge into the river, assumably, is the baby also a returned? Or did the baby just having to live through the whole thing because the baby was inside?
Yeah, and Maggie hints at that, right? She says, you know, hey, and might have a possible fourth that has this condition when she calls her friend at apparently like the CDC or whatever it was. I couldn't quite catch it, but a doctor friend that deals with these kind of weird cases. So we're going to probably see him coming into town, you know, at some point here in the next episode or two, you know. But I think the bigger shocker of the evening was the fact that Elaine actually did learn something from Caleb's bad parenting, and that was how to swing a hammer.
Sledgehammer Elaine is going to be her nickname. She did a great job. And of course, Under the Porch Walk. Of course, Under the Porch Walk. It explains the Midsummer's Night construction projects that Caleb's been working on. And yeah, she wields that sledgehammer pretty well. So watch out.
I do like the fact that, you know, the sheriff and Bellamy are kind of teaming up and understanding that something bigger is going to happen if the feds do get involved. So, and I love the line he kind of sits there with Bellamy and he was just like, you know, because if they come after Caleb, they're going to come after Jacob. And it's like, no offense to you, but I don't want any of your pals running through my town.
You know, that's a fair enough statement.
Very still of outsiders. So I'm really curious to see how the rest of the church actually reacts when they find out that Rachael and her unborn, reborn child is in the mix.
Well, judging by a few that we've seen already in their particular church, it may not go over all that well. Now, I will say, you know, because Elaine has done a lot of things over the past few episodes where I've been like seriously questioning her judgment, but she does redeem herself by turning over the money. So I give her props on that. She finally, you know, after having that speech with her dad in prison, kind of has come to see the light. And what about Whistling Caleb? He seems to know secrets about Agent Bellamy's past and the child or something that seems to haunt Bellamy. So I want to know, how does Caleb know these things?
Well, the best thing about this entire sequence was that, when they were taking Jacob away, Jacob kind of morphs into this boy's face. So you're kind of tricked at the beginning, right? Because you're thinking, okay, this is a similar situation. Bellamy had something that went wrong. The kid was actually probably taken away from a foster situation because he made a bad choice on the foster placement and things of that nature. And then as the thing progresses along, you're kind of like, oh, okay, so he was taken away because Bellamy puts him in this foster situation, and the dad looked kind of shady to begin with.
Yeah.
So maybe the kid killed the dad because you were still thinking the kid got taken away at the end of the day. And then, of course, we get to the end of the scene where the kid's actually being rolled out on the cart, we assume, because he picks up the blue ball. And then you're like, oh, snap, that's the ball he's throwing in the office in the pilot episode. And you're like, wow, that was just moving.
Exactly. Because he can't get that kid out of his mind, and who could? And at the same time, it really shows that that I'm sure that's the whole pivotal thing that happened to Agent Bellamy that made him, quote unquote, a glorified desk jockey, as far as Officer Fred calling him that earlier in the season, because he definitely got demoted, and it might have been due to some poor judgment in that whole situation. I'm not positive, but I'm just guessing that might have been what happened.
Well, more importantly, was Bellamy technically phoning it in? We talk about what did you do in your past? So when he did place this kid with this family, I mean, the dad looked shady right away to all of us. I mean, he looked shady to me. He kind of did that kind of like, really kind of look,
Mm-hmm.
And then, Bellamy looks at him. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it, son. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just go on in. Have a good time,
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if he was just phoning it in. He's like, he kind of even said it in the pilot episode. It's like, oh, I could totally do it. What? I just got to take a kid from point A to point B. No problem. I'll be back in 2 hours. So was he just phoning it in? And that's why he's so cut to the core about this happening to Jacob, because when he came running to look for him, it was almost like Bellamy was his dad versus Henry.
Exactly. And Kathy in our chat room, since we're recording Sunday night's Initial Reactions live, Kathy reminds us that Bellamy said to the boy, you helped put away some bad guys.
Well, and that's why I thought it was shady to begin with, because the minute he said that and then the dad had the look on his face, I was like, okay, well, the dad was involved with these bad guys. And you know what these bad guys do? They protect their own. And even if it means, taking out the rat, basically. And I think that's exactly what the dad did. He took out the rat who squealed on his friends.
And that is terrible. That is bad news. And that is the kind of thing that could mess up Bellamy or anybody else with that kind of situation. I still don't know how Caleb is able to know these things. Like he even hinted something to Officer Sheriff Fred earlier in the episode. So I wonder if that's tied into the same way that the returned can kind of sense each other. There's definitely some mystery that I want answers to. I'm normally not very patient when it comes to wanting answers, but in due time, right, Troy?
Well, we were talking about the fact that, this show is kind of like Lost. A lot of people are doing the comparisons. And of course, I said that it took me till episode 4 of Lost to sit there and go, whoa, wait, what is this show? And for me, Resurrection is going to be Insomnia episode 5, because tonight's big, mind bender is exactly the thing where we're going to be like talking about this for like the next 5 days, because when he comes over to the water, he's a con man, right? So we should have all been playing along with the con. He's not sick. He's fake being sick so that he could get this drink of water so Bellamy could turn around. And what an awesome camera shot to go through, if you're reborn by the water to then disappear by the water. That was amazing, the way they shot that scene.
I'm still blown away. I'm like, how on earth is it possible that Caleb was able to disappear? And obviously it sounds planned. Where did he go? And of course, I'll be able to tell when I rewatch the episode again. Did he take the money with him when he left?
Oh, I didn't even look for that. That's really cool. I'm going to have to go back and watch myself now, because I did not notice. Can you take things from this world into another world, if you will? Things that are tangible? It's a very good question.
Well,
might harken back to some other literature like the Dark Tower series.
Oh, I love it when anything ties back to the Dark Tower series, because in the police station, we know that they were at least audio taping the conversation. They were listening in when Elaine was talking with Caleb. So even in a small town like this, I assume there's video cameras. I don't know if it'll show us anything, but we need to know what happened. And did the money disappear at the same time as Caleb, or was he able to quickly, when he disappeared, hop over, grab the money, and then disappear with everything? I'm not sure, because he really wanted that money, I think. Or do you think he's just being a good dad and had it hidden? The only reason he robbed the bank was so he could leave it for Elaine and kill that security guard in the armored truck.
Well, yeah, the killing part, I think he just did to kind of cover his tracks. I don't think he really intended to kill the guy in the third, because he just didn't know what to do, because last time there wasn't a third person there. And since he did leave the note and the only place Elaine could find it, I'm going to say the money was just truly for Elaine. So his intentions were to take care of his family, but he could only take care of his family the way he was, because even Caleb said, it's like, we are what we are. So Caleb still has his epileptic seizures. Rachael still has her child in her womb. Caleb is still a con man criminal. And Bellamy, this is where he starts to freak out, because he's the person that loses children. So he wanted to make sure that Jacob was safe. Because he goes into something that Steven in the chat room actually brought up was, the dreams, can they be foreshadowing of future events? And Bellamy picks up on that right away. If Caleb disappeared like he did in the dream, that Jacob started to disappear, I got to go make sure he's safe.
Yeah, and I thought for sure, since it was nearing the end of the episode, that he was going to get there and Jacob would be gone. But Jacob is safe, at least for now, so that's good. But how does Jacob sense that Caleb has disappeared? He knows.
Well, it's a plane of existence, right? So if you're in the existence and then you're not in the existence, if you're not on that same astral plane, let's call it, to go with a different type of religion, if you're on that same astral plane, then if you're not on that astral plane anymore, you would have that, kind of separation, and you could feel that energy leaving, if you will. So, or in the case of Kathy in the chat room, she still thinks it's sci-fi because she's talking teleportation. Did aliens beam them back up to the ship?
I didn't see him flip open a tricorder or anything, but then again, Astro was on the Jetsons. I love that dog.
Sure, and orange is close enough to red, so kind of red shirt. So all things we can think about as we talk about our future episodes. So things that you guys can look out for, fans, as we wait to talk to Kathleen Monroe this week. You can, of course, tell us, did you see the money bags? Are they still on the floor? Call in 904-469-7469. That number again, Wayne?
I would say that it's probably 904-469-7469.
Great number. You should write it down, put it in your contacts, save it, because we will be back later this week with a more in-depth review of Insomnia. So make sure you tell all of your friends on Facebook and Twitter, even Google+, heck, put it on Pinterest, Tumblr, wherever else you can tell anyone about this great episode and this great podcast. Subscription links for iTunes, Stitcher, RSS feed for your favorite podcatcher, all up on the page at resurrectionrevealed.com.
And of course, resurrectionrevealed.com/sponsor is working again. We don't know what went wrong, but it's back. You can help send in your thoughts and theories. You can even go to resurrectionrevealed.com/feedback and just leave your thoughts that way as well.
Yep, and of course, if you want to keep the show alive, head on over to resurrectionrevealed.com/support/sponsor. Either way, donate a few bucks, help us keep the podcast going, and of course, leave a 5-star written review in iTunes, because it really helps out the show.
Yes, it does. And the full episode, again, will be out later this week, late Wednesday or early Thursday. Got a special interview there with Kathleen, so we are looking forward to that. We've got some questions for her. Until that time, I'm Wayne Henderson.
And I'm Troy Heinrichs. Thanks for hanging with us live tonight on Resurrection Revealed.
And Resurrection Revealed is a proud member of Noodle Mix Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts that'll help you think, laugh, and succeed, and they're all at noodle.mx.